Hello, everyone. Good morning, good morning. I know that we have a few folks from the US joining. I'm based in London, so it's good afternoon as well for me. Welcome, everyone, this beautiful Wednesday, 20th of March, 2024. It's insane that we're in this, that time flies so fast. But yeah, welcome everyone to this Journeys workshop. I'm so excited to have you at this webinar. So yeah, let's get started. Perfect. Okay, so I'm only going to bore you with these slides for not longer than 5 minutes, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what journeys are. My first recommendation to everyone attending this webinar is that ideally, not mandatory, but if you want to have your OneSignal account open, so you can really be in hands experimenting what journeys are, and ideally setting to live some journeys after this workshop, that would be fantastic, right? So if you want to have your account, that's a good recommendation. So I am going to start this webinar with some good news. Okay, so journeys are available now with OneSignal ID. That is the one in the red circle at the right. This is a very good news because this is automatically collected by OneSignal SDK, right? So you can use journeys right now, right away, for push and for in-app messages. So it's really good news that you're ready and set up to use journeys. So the first part of these slides, I wanted to explain why is it going to be relevant that we start thinking about journeys as for different strategies for different use cases, right? And the important thing here is about being able to engage with your users, your app users, your website users, at every single touch point where it actually makes sense to communicate with them, right? So we want an integrated set of communications for different purposes, right? For onboarding a new user and engaging from the very first minutes so that we really loyalize them in the long term from the very first scratch. But also for a re-engagement strategy, it could make sense that we set those numbers of notifications sent at the right moments so that we are as effective as possible trying to bring these inactive users back to your app or website. Well, I mentioned push and in-app messages. The reality is that with OneSignal, you can also use email and SMS. Why do I mention this? It's because when you're able to include more channels in your orchestration, you are able to increase by 220% the engagement rates. You heard right. So it's insane, right? It's 220%. So definitely something to think about, like how you can use email and push notifications in one single journey to try to achieve an objective. That's the way that you need to start thinking from now on, right? But that was one case, but of course you can show the value propositions with different approaches depending on the nature of the channels that you're using. So the most important thing is this word, automation. Automation, right? So you're able to save time, you're able to save resources. We're only going to think about the strategies that we're going to implement with journeys once, but then it's going to be a robot, right? Onboarding the user, a robot reactivating users that have been inactive, or I don't know, a robot trying to make some revenue sitting in the cart, right? From those abandoned cart strategies for e-commerce or retail or for subscription apps, etc. Right? So it's a good way for us to automate as much processes as possible. And the last thing is that it's super user friendly, right? So like when you see other tools, it's not as easy to use as when you're using it with OneSignal. I say that by experience. So we took care of everything, and you don't need to any code, nothing. You just are able to use OneSignal, and I am going to show you right now how easy it is to use, right? So I told you at the beginning it was going to be less than 5 minutes, and now I am going to jump straight into our dashboard. Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to jump into the dashboard. This is when you just log in into OneSignal, and I am going to move into the left here into the journeys section, right? So in order to build a journey, we need to go to the blue button here, and you just click literally the blue button, and you'll see immediately the journeys settings here, right? So this is very short. It's very straightforward, but it's a couple of important things that we need to do before setting the journey to life, right? So the first thing is naming the journey. So what is it going to be? Let's say that we're going to create a re-engagement journey as a kind of like as an example mode, right? So first thing that we'll need to do is to create an entry rule, right? The entry rule, it's basically including a segment of the users that are going to be part of this journey, right? And you can either select one of the segments that you have previously created, right, in OneSignal, or alternatively, you can create a segment from scratch, right? So I'm going to click the blue button and I'm going to say inactive. Oh, sorry about that. Give me 1 second. It's inactive 1 month, right? And I am going to say the last session criteria. It's greater than, and we can see here that there's 4 weeks. Yeah. So we have the number of users that have been inactive for the past month, right? Is there a month one? No. Okay, we're gonna continue with that. So we create the segment, right? Oh, the name is already taken, so it means that this is. So let me see, inactive 1 month. Yeah. So we included the segment there. So I am going to keep scrolling down, and now we're going to find the exit rules, right? So let's say that we are creating an onboarding journey. So if we are creating an onboarding journey where we want users to be informed, to be educated about the value that they will find in the app or the website, maybe it makes sense to choose this first option. They move through the entire journey, that they receive every single message that is set in the journey, right? However, we also have the option that they meet certain conditions, right? So for example, for the re-engagement purpose that we are doing here, right, it would make sense to exit the users once they become active in your app or website, right? So why are we going to keep sending them messages when they have already achieved the objective of the journey that was to setting like to bringing them back to the app or website, right? But we could have also other options, like exit when a user no longer matches the audience condition. A classic use case for this example is the abandoned cart, right? So let's say that we are creating this journey to make the users that have a product in the cart convert that product, correct? So they entered when we selected the segment of users that have a product abandoned in the cart, correct? However, when we could make them exit when they no longer match the audience condition. For example, that they don't have a product in the cart anymore, right? So that's a good example. But also, you have the third option, that is exit when the user enters a segment. So this is when you have subscription apps, for example, sometimes they separate the free users to the paid users or premium users, right? So we could have a journey that is with the segments of free users with the intention of converting them to paid, right? And we could exit the user when they are part of a segment that is the paid segment, right? So this means that later we are going to be able to see how many users exited early from this journey, and it's cool because you will be able to see how many people exited, which means that they are now paying, and we will be able to give a number, right, a revenue number to this journey, so that you can say this journey in OneSignal is giving me X amounts of money, right? Lastly, and I'm not going to spend that much time here, is the re-entry rules. Like, when do we want a user to be able to come back to this journey? For a re-engagement campaign, it actually makes sense, but you can also define how many days need to pass before they re-enter the journey again, right? So let's say 30 days, and we're just going to save. And I'm going to keep the first one, sorry about that, the first option, that is exit when the user becomes active, and we're going to save, right? Perfect. So now we're here, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a journey, right? So first thing that I'm going to do is show you that you have two options, the blue options and the yellow options here, right? So the yellows are the actions, the blues are the messages, right? So we can select a push message, and in order to select which message is going to be included in the journey, it's recommended that you create the templates that are going to be used in this journey beforehand, right? You could alternatively create a new template from here, right? So if I click here, you can literally just create a new push, and we say, you know, come, yeah, oh, sorry, I can't see because of this, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, we can say like, come back to the app, right? I'm not very creative today. You can be a lot more creative than I do. And we add like, let's say, an emoji, okay? So I'm just gonna copy this and here, and in the name of the template, and I am going to save it, correct? Cool. So we already saved the template and we go back to the journey now, right? And in the templates, I'm gonna copy the message that I just created, and you can see it that it's there, and we save it, and you're already having like the first message of the journey there, right? A very easy way to start using journeys is to add a combination of messages with wait nodes, right? So we can add a wait node now after the first message was sent of 1 hour, right? So this means that the next message is going to be sent, but after an hour, the first one was sent, right? So you can be very creative. For example, let's say that I have already the templates that I have thought for the journey created. I'm going to add this one. It doesn't matter the content of what it is, but then you can start creating a very linear journey. And then I could add, for example, a wait node of 1 day, right? So that we're not like over sending messages to these users, right? But there you're already having kind of like an idea of how to create a journey, right? The good thing, as I mentioned before, is that this will later be an automated process, and you can take it from there. You can add also some interesting things with OneSignal. For example, you can add a time window, which means that you can decide which day the message can be sent. For example, I don't want the message to be sent over the weekends because I can see that our users don't interact much with the app or with the website during the weekends, right? So I only want it to be sent during the weekdays, and we can set a time window here in order to make the messages be sent between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., for example, right? So I save that, and you already have a time window from when the next message needs to be sent. So if you want to do it for the next message, for other messages as well, we would need to add another one here, right? And the last thing that I want to show you before we actually, I share with you some use cases, is that you can also include yes or no branches. This one here, right? The yes or no branches allows you to see what was the previous message behavior from the last message, right? So let's use the 2FA, this one that is here, 2FA example, right? This means that OneSignal will create two separate paths. One for those who, yes, have clicked in the previous message. So you can target more the next push notification that you're going to send here to that specific message. And then you can see the ones that haven't clicked in the previous message, so that we can basically continue with the strategy to re-engage with these users and bring them back to the app, right? So you can become a lot more specific with the messages that you start sending. I think that you already have a broad picture of how to use it. You're ready to start using OneSignal Journeys. Now, for the next 10 minutes, I am going to share with you a couple of use cases that I have prepared so that you can see some concrete ideas of what some of our clients have been doing here in OneSignal with a lot of success, right? So the examples that I have created are taken as examples from other customers that have been very successful creating journeys, right? So the first journey that I prepared is onboarding new users to the app, right? So this is an onboarding journey, correct? As you can see, the segments of users here is the AGC new users. However, you could also include in the parameters, you could include like all in the entry rules, all the subscribed users, and you could add the future additions only, which means that only the new users that are added to this segment will enter this journey, right? So that you can, it's a couple of different ways in which you can start creating an onboarding journey, right? Perfect. So we make all the new users join this journey. Then we select a time window because they have, so just some context for everyone. Like this customer, because this is a real case, really wanted, they identified that for their users, it was super effective for when they purchased an item in the first 7 days. They have identified that those users that purchase an item in the first 7 days, they become a lot more loyal in the long term. So the objective of the journey here was to really make the users like buy something in the first 7 days. Okay, so we added a 5-minute wait note so that it's not that a user subscribed to push and they immediately receive a push. We wait 5 minutes before the message, the first message is sent, right? So we see that there's a first push notification here, and the example is like first name. You can use personalization here. So let's say it's Italo. My name is Italo, by the way, for those who didn't join at the beginning. So Italo, save save money and save the world. Use the code welcome to, and we'll give you a £10 on your first rescue, right? So that's the first message. Then we add a wait note of 1 day, and then we add another time window because they have identified that the engagement rates are much more effective when they excluded Saturday from the different days, right? So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Yeah. And then we send the next message, which is very similar to like a £10 gift on your first rescue. Enter the code welcome to, blah, 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 right? And again, it's a very simple journey, but this customer has been able to see some super solid and concrete results of users who are actually making use of that coupon, right? Of the coupon that we were just saving. Because the last notification, this is a journey of 3 notifications, right? It's relatively the same. So use our code welcome to and get a 10% discount, right? So again, it's a very simple journey, but a very successful one as well. So you are more than invited to create your onboarding journeys with maybe a different approach to this one, right? This one is very focused on purchasing. Maybe you can have another one that is more informative, like educative, so that your asset we mentioned at the beginning in the slides, so that you can guide your users to success, right? The more successful that they are in your app or website, the more engaged that they will be in the long term. All right. So I am going to jump to the second use case. The second use case is a re-engagement campaign that I have prepared for news and media organizations, right? Okay. So we're going to select exactly the same process that we did for the re-engagement campaign that we did at the beginning. That is this: create a segment of users that have been inactive, right? So we selected 1 week inactive, and after that, after a user has been 1 week inactive, we can send like a push notification saying, extra, don't miss the most relevant breaking news. Dive into our exclusive features and get informed, right? Something cool that I've seen I'm going to talk about the use case of news and media, is to send a time window or like on a specific day where the users could be incentivized to click on this push. So for example, for news and media, I've seen that they select only the Sunday, right? And they send like a push notification like in the afternoon, right? So let's say between like 4 p.m., right? And we're gonna say 11 p.m., right? So we save, and we make that the first notification is sent like, look at the summary of the news during the weekend that you miss, right? Something like that. I get a very non-creative example, but I think that you get the idea, right? So we need to be thoughtful of how is this push going to make value, right? So how is the user going to be like, maybe thinking about clicking and going back to your website or app, right? So that is a good example. But time windows, like I had another customer that was about sports betting, for example, and they used time window, for example, to the Champions League in football or soccer, how you say in America. It's played on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right? So they use the time window to send the next notification on the Tuesday, so that these users are more prompted to bet, on the match days, right? Perfect. So we're going to continue with the first push that we sent. We have the wait node, and then we have the yes or no branch. depending on the interests of the users, right? So there are apps and websites that you are able to create segments with the interest, depending on the actions that the user took on the in your website or in your app. You can identify where or in which sections they are interested, right? So we can select a yes or no branch, not based on the previous message behavior, as I told you earlier, but based on a segment membership, right? So in this case, we have sports users, right? So what does this mean? It means that all the users that have shown interest in the past in sports are going to go this way, right? So we send a very targeted message based on sports, trying to bring the user back to the app, right? Later, for those who are not interested in sports, we are going to create another yes or no branch, right? For those who are interested in breaking news. So we're gonna decide who goes yes, who is interested in breaking news, and who isn't, right? And for those who are interested, we're gonna send a very specific and targeted notification for those who are interested in breaking news. Exactly the same process with UK politics, right? So we are going to see that there's a very targeted notification for UK politics. So again, we are using different like features that OneSignal provide us to be as much to provide as much value as we can with the communications that we're sending, so that we can bring the user back to the app, right? Because this is a re-engagement campaign, right? Perfect. So lastly, and I'm only gonna see this very quick because I want to jump into some of the questions that some of our attendees are having before getting into an end of this webinar. Is an abandoned cart for e-commerce, right? So we have a use case here. For example, the included segment of this journey is abandoned cart, correct? So abandon, everyone who has a product in the cart enter the journey, and they start, and the first thing we're going to do is to select a wait node, right? So we're going to wait for 1 hour before sending the first push, right? So we're going to say like you can select, you can use GIFs, you can even include the product name in the message, right? So if we're able to bring the product name that they have in the cart into OneSignal, which is absolutely doable and great use of OneSignal, we are going to be able to create very personalized messages, right? So in this case, your like I think that the name is here, your orange lens aviators are awaiting for you, right? So again, the more personalized, the more targeted, the better, right? Well, and I wanted to show you also this particular feature from OneSignal that is called split branch. So we already saw that you have the ability to create a yes or no branch, right? So you have the yes or no branch, but you also have the split branch. That is different, okay? The split branch is basically an A/B test, right? So you have branch A and you have branch B that is going to be like this, right? But the audience is going to be filtered by 50% on this side, 50% on this side. And we can, again, test. Like A/B testing is the best data-driven approach that you can have to see and understand your audience, to understand which strategies work better, so that you can, after testing a couple of times, 3 times or 4 times, you can see maybe patterns and make structural changes to the way that you're sending notifications. So in this case, we prove one without image, and on the other side, we test one with the aviators there, Tom Cruise. Yeah. So that is how, again, I really strongly recommend you guys to start experimenting with journeys, like create your own designs. Nothing is going to happen before you set it up to live here, right? So get started, start automating, and excited to see some of your journeys from here to the future. Okay, we are getting into the last part of this webinar, and now I am going to stop sharing my screen. And the whole idea now is that you guys can, some of the questions that were asked during this webinar, we can answer to some of those, and I am seeing already some of them. So from Ariana, when I include a segment of users, for example, purchaser, okay, do I include all the users that have ever purchased, or the users that purchase from the moment of journey activation? Okay, so that is a great question, right? And the answer is that is option A, right? So everyone who has purchased is going to enter that journey. However, in the settings of the journey, there is one option that is called future additions only, right? So if I click on future additions only, this will mean that only the new users that are entering this segment, the segment of purchase, are going to be triggered with the messages of this journey, right? That means that everyone who has purchased in the past is not going to receive all the messages, but only those who have purchased after the journey was set to live. Yeah, but very good question there from Ariana. Thanks so much. I see another question from Paul, and it says, I found Journeys the most powerful tool in OneSignal. Let me say, Paul, that I agree with you. I really like Journeys. However, I miss having language variations for in-app messages that make me create one branch for each language each time I want to create a communications flow. Are you planning to work on this? It's a good question, Paul, because I know what you're talking about. Like right now, the best way to create a journey for in-app messages with different languages is to create yes or no branches. So let me just like briefly explain this. I'm going to save, right? So it's to briefly create we create a yes or no branch, and we add like segment membership, let's say English language. Let me see. English, right? Let's say English class is English speakers, right? And then we have like another yes or no branch, and we have like, let's say Spanish maybe. Okay, we have Spanish segment. Okay, so this is what Paul mentions, right? So it's a bit of a workaround because the in-app message for Spanish needs to go here. The in-app message for English needs to be here. I will have to confirm with you, Paul, what is our product roadmap towards this topic, because I understand that when you compare the language, you the way to send notifications, like push notifications, is a lot easier than using in-app messages, because you can create one push for several languages, right? But let me get back to you on this, not only for Paul, but everyone who is asking questions that might not be answered because of time. We're going to make sure that we are going to get back to you with more answers, specifically on this, Paul, regarding our product roadmap, if like how immediate this could be of a change, and if not, like when you could expect something from like this to happen. Sorry that I didn't have like a specific question. Another question from Paul. If we set a time window from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., for example, what is the criteria to deliver this message between this time? Is based on users' app behavior? Good question. So I think that I had this. So the time window, if we go here, it depends on time zone fallback, right? So or the user's time zone. So in this case, it doesn't matter the country that you live, but it's going to be the time that you have set in the device, right? So in my iPhone, I'm right now, I have the time from the UK because I live in London. So that means that the message is going to be delivered between 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. from the UK. Exactly the same from someone that lives in Brazil, right? In Brazil, they have a different time zone, but this message is going to be sent between 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. from Brazil. Not sure if I am answering your question. So if we set a time window, I think that it is. Yeah, cool. I see that we have one last question from Sydney, right? So Sydney mentions that where do we see the data response for each branch? Okay, that is a great question. And the answer to that is in the Journeys report. So let me show you. This is our demo account, and I want to briefly show you one of our active journeys. So give me 1 second. This is, give me 1 second. I'm going to show you. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's see this one, right? I am opening a journey that is set up to active, right? And you can see here in the top part, Sydney, that there is a journeys report, right? So you will be able to see how each one of the messages of your journey is performing, right? So this is kind of like a 360 view of what is going on with the journey. This is pretty cool, right? So for example, you can see how many users are exiting early, right? You can see how many are in progress, how many started. And if we scroll down, we will be able to see all the messages within the journey and the metrics that they are having, right? So how many have clicked in each one of the messages, the click-through rate for each one, how many were delivered, etc., etc. And for split branching, this is exactly the case as well. Perfect. Cool. All right. So I think we're getting up to an end of this webinar, right? So this Journeys workshop. And yeah, I want to thank you all for participating, for being, for staying until the end of it. Thank you so much. I really hope that some of you start using Journeys like as soon as possible. I am going to monitor that happens. You would make me very happy if that happens, right? But thank you so much. Have a nice rest of your day, and we'll stay in touch. Bye-bye. See you.